checkpoint to Fire Command Center. There's a security breach at 27th floor. There's a guest loitering around the corridor. Would someone please proceed up to check?
Oh, where do I begin? I mean, it has definitely changed drastically.
You almost miss on flight any minute. It's madness, it's crazy.
Foreigners and residents, a warm welcome home.
(2019) was a very strong year for tourism for Singapore. We received 19.1 million international visitor arrivals. We saw spending amounting to 27.7 billion Singapore dollars. It was a record year for us.
We've had tens of thousands of guests coming in and out of the doors from many, many parts of the world. So it's always been a fantastic, vibrant atmosphere.
And so a lot of our hotels were facing full occupancy in January and February 2020. I think the hoteliers were all feeling very bullish as well, given the solid pipeline of bookings that they have received.
But nearly overnight, that pipeline vanished. By January 2020, the mysterious virus spreading in Wuhan, China, had gone global.
Singapore's tourism sector is expected to take a big hit.
Hotels and attractions reporting a 60% drop in business.
We missed the buzz of the hotel, right? There's no live entertainment, there's no music.
Then suddenly, the hotels in Singapore were given a lifeline to serve as paid isolation facilities for travelers entering the country. For the first time, a hotel in Singapore is letting our cameras through its doors to document their journey from a place of paradise into a quarantine facility.
Let's hope we get delivered or sent to a very nice hotel.
Still no idea of where we're going, so fingers crossed.
If you think this is another story about trying to keep the COVID-19 virus out, it's not. This is a story about letting people in and the risks we take with it. When the virus started spreading around the world, Singapore reacted swiftly.
We will not allow entry of any new visitor who has had recent travel history in Hubei.
All new visitors with recent travel history to Iran, Northern Italy and South Korea will not be allowed into Singapore.
Barring all transit or entry for visitors from EU countries like France, Germany, Italy and Spain. All short-term visitors from anywhere in the world
will not be allowed into Singapore.
But citizens, permanent residents and long-term pass holders could all still enter.
We were determined to ensure that we would leave no Singaporean behind.
There was, however, a catch.
We were amongst the first few countries to actually require a period of quarantine for incoming travellers.
We need to put them on a stay-at-home notice so that should they become infected later on, they will not transmit disease to others. 14-day SHN is more than sufficient to capture almost all COVID-19 cases.
According to a Shenzhen study, up to 95% of cases show symptoms by the 14th day of infection. Other studies have it as high as 99%. So for a few weeks, Singapore's border policy forced incoming travellers to stay at home for 14 days. This strategy was adopted by authorities in Taiwan and India too. But before long, the decision to have them quarantine at home turned out to be a costly mistake.
We had a very large outbreak that resulted in the circuit breaker being imposed. And it was actually seeded by travellers returning from Europe, returning from North America back into Singapore.
Well, of course, most people live with others, share facilities.
Now, if I'm the traveller, I come back home to Singapore, I'm quarantined at home. I'm interacting with my family, my children, my parents, but they are the ones that are still allowed to go about in the community. And we have actually seen why home quarantine during this pandemic outbreak is not exactly going to be successful. And Singapore unfortunately learned the lesson the hard way.
But by then, the government was strongly urging overseas Singaporeans and long-term residents to return home quickly. So there was a large influx of people rushing back to Singapore to flee the worsening global situation. Since the home quarantine failed to stop the virus from spreading, a new strategy was needed to house many people in very little time.
Automatically, hotels was the top choice that came to mind.
Hotels are the most thorough way of ensuring they're not mixing.
They provided single rooms with attached en-suites, right, bathrooms, and we could really kind of activate them since they were not receiving any tourists anyway, to be able to house all these persons under stay-home notice.
The task of getting hotels on board naturally fell to the government agency, whose job in normal times is to boost Singapore's tourism sector.
Because we already had a very good relationship with the hotels prior to COVID, it was very easy then to activate them when needed.
Mike Williamson remembers the day he was called in to meet with STB. At that time, the Conrad only had a 15% room occupancy.
Without that business, the hotel would have had to have closed its doors. That would have been an awful situation to have been in. We have more than 400 team members employed within the hotel, and all of those team members have got families who are all dependent on them.
Around 20 hotels first signed up, and some transformed their places of leisure into isolation facilities within mere days.
We need to make sure that they have sufficient rooms that will cater to our needs, to adhere to our very stringent infection prevention protocol and guidelines. So they need to be able to have security that's well trained. They need to have CCTV system that's in place, that's able to help us to monitor, because those that are being isolated, they're not allowed to come out of their rooms at any time unless they're going for a specific purpose, such as for a swab test. Air conditioning, ventilation and mechanical systems are important, so we get our technical agencies to audit and vet to make sure that whatever is in place in hotels meets the technical requirements as well.
The physical hotel had to be split into 3 separate zones.
So anything happening on the room floor itself is considered the amber zone. And then within the room, that is the red zone, as the status is unknown for some time in terms of being negative or positive for COVID. Then the green team is basically all the other parts of the hotel that are in non-contact with SHN guests. So between the amber zone team members and the green zone team members, they're not allowed to intermingle. They don't mix. They have the different resting area, the changing area, so it's completely separated from the hotel. We divided the lobby basically in 2. The main entrance is the green zone, because there's where the guests come in to dine within the outlets. So we have made a separation in the lobby through partitions for the SHN guests that check in. They use a different entrance on the side, separated from the main entrance.
At this time, the virus was still new. But scientists knew that older people were more vulnerable to dying from it. This made assigning staff to the Amber team that works with quarantined guests a heavy decision. That decision fell on the operations director, who decided on 2 guiding principles.
Elderly above 60, we do not move into the Amber zone. Also, we don't put anybody there against their will.
So I'm saying to my boss, I will volunteer, I will go first to Amber. to help them. Because I know the hard time, some of foreigners from India, from Bangladesh, they don't know the language, it will be difficult.
Never once I actually thought that, no, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to participate. Yeah, I always volunteer to participate.
My wife is working in the Amber Zone as well, in a different hotel.
For me, I actually like to be challenged. I feel that if I enter this Amber team, I can gain more exposure for this. For me, being called a frontliner actually is a very, very heartening to be called.
The majority of the team are from the younger generation. The majority of them actually volunteered and are very keen in helping out with this initiative.
By April 21st, 2020, the Conrad was ready to receive its first guests under stay-home notice, and the lives of its staff were in for a drastic change. As we rounded off 2020, Singapore started to allow the travel that people and businesses needed so badly. Gingerly opening its borders to select low-risk countries, for example, allowing travellers from Japan and Norway to quarantine at home, and those from New Zealand and Brunei to do swab tests instead of quarantine. But the 14-day hotel quarantine for all other travellers remained the default.
It was really exciting at the airport.
They're all wearing the blue gown. I feel it's like an ICU. Then they direct us out of the airport. So I have to say it is really, really extreme here in Singapore. It also goes to show how seriously the government look upon this whole COVID.
And we got ushered off into our own private bus where there was nobody else.
Travellers proceed straight to their place of accommodation after clearing the checkpoint. Thereafter, our SHN monitoring and enforcement measures will start.
There would be around 40 members in full PPE outside the hotel to basically welcome them.
As of 30th June 2021, we have served 431,000 SHNs to arriving travellers.
This is awesome!
We came from Jakarta, and being away for so long, about 11 years, we decided to come back here for good because of the pandemic, and we want to be nearer with our family.
So we will do the assignment of hotels that need to be activated on a daily basis. It's really based on the availability, how many people are arriving on a certain day. People who are coming from higher risk countries, we do try and make sure that they are not mixed with those coming from lower risk countries.
In early 2021, cases surged in Southeast Asian nations like Malaysia and Indonesia, as they joined the ranks of others like India and South Africa as high-risk countries. But Singaporeans and permanent residents from there were still allowed to return.
I'm currently 31 weeks pregnant, and so because COVID is still very, very bad in Malaysia, my husband and I decided that we wanted to come back to Singapore. Singapore has done an amazing job of keeping COVID numbers low here.
Compared to its neighbours, the situation was on the upturn in Singapore. The world looked to it as an example of successful COVID containment that allowed travellers in. A strict quarantine regime preventing imported cases from entering the community was part of the toolkit.
So ever since our circuit breaker middle of last year, we have been progressively reopening our society, the economy, because we had a very good handle on the previous transmission. I think there were some days where we even didn't have any community cases.
India has detected a new variant of the coronavirus. It's been dubbed a double mutant.
The B1617 lineage was actually detected in India in late 2020. And this is the lineage from which the Delta variant subsequently emerged from.
So coronaviruses mutate. This is RNA viruses. It's how they're successful in nature. They're always evolving. And eventually, the virus finds a combination of mutations that actually form a new variant. And this particular variant, the spike protein, binds better with the receptor in our throats, and therefore it's stickier, if you like. So as a result, this has got a huge survival advantage. It can multiply, so you need a lower dose of virus to cause disease, and therefore you find more people get it. And that's what we're seeing happening across the world now, is that this one is so successful, it's becoming the dominant strain internationally.
But Singapore did not immediately shut its borders to Delta-ravaged countries, despite calls to do so.
We need a continued inflow of migrant workers to support our key economic sectors, including construction workers.
Until...
In Singapore, the Delta variant was first identified in a traveller in early April 2021.
Singapore had to act decisively.
Singapore has closed its border to long-term pass holders and short-term visitors who have recently been to India.
But it was too late.
29 local cases have been linked to these variants, and 7 of those are of the B1617.2, and it's spread out over 3 clusters in Singapore.
The Delta variant was moving fast, and experts began to wonder if a 14-day quarantine was even enough.
We started to see signs to suggest that the incubation period that is linked to the Delta variant could be longer than 14 days.
And there were some cases of travellers arriving, doing their 14 days quarantine, and then being diagnosed on day 17 or day 19.
To contain this new enemy, Singapore extended quarantine from 14 to 21 days. Nick Ang and his pregnant wife were hit with the new ruling, already 7 days into their quarantine.
No! Why? Does that even make sense? If they make me pay for this 7 extra days, I'm gonna punch someone in the face.
Since mid-2020, the cost of the quarantine hotel stay started to shift to all travellers, including Singaporeans, as long as they left Singapore after a certain date.
It's an extra $1,200 for 1 more week. Previously, I've already paid $2,300 for 14 days.
It's a very daunting thought and starting to lose a little bit of hope.
So did you think 21 days was something that you can survive?
Yeah.
21 days is no joke. It's like they are going to a war for 21 days. You can see that some of them are really afraid that they won't be able to do it.
When the news broke out that the quarantine period has been extended to 21 days, I wavered and hesitated and discussed with my mom if I could, delay my return. We've decided that the future of this pandemic is truly unpredictable. So to avoid any more regrets, I've decided to just bite the bullet and come back to see my mom.
But for most of the staff at the Conrad Centennial, surprisingly little changed when stay-home notice was extended from 14 to 21 days. Except for the housekeeping crews. Accustomed to cleaning the rooms daily before the pandemic, doing so after 14 days of use was already a challenge. The extension meant that they could only enter the rooms after a grand total of 21 days.
For the towel, we have to change every 3 days. For the linen, we will place the items outside their door every 7 days. They have to take the item in and to change themselves.
Hosting.
I just have to pick up the phone and tell them that we need new bath mats or new towels, and within the next 30 minutes, and they'll put our fresh towels and all outside, and then that's it. It's just very simple.
But nothing is as simple as it seems. Beyond closed doors is an army of staff trying to maintain the hospitality standards of a hotel with the safety rigors of a hospital.
We will wear PPE as long as we are in the amber zone. I would say 90% of our job requires PPE.
Nurses from MOH train us personally how to wear PPE, how to gown out, how to degown.
There's two types. There's a partial PPE where we just have to wear a gown, surgical mask, and then the gloves. The process for that would be deliveries, no direct contact with the guest. The full PPE where you would have direct contact with the guest, that one is a bit of a challenge.
With N95, you actually can't really breathe that easily. Yeah, it's like suffocating kind. So to be honest with you, if you were to wear for a few hours one shot, it's really gonna be really tiring.
So you'd be sweating and all.
It's like you bathing inside, you know, with all the sweats and all that.
But it's exactly what hotel engineers have to wear when urgent problems in the guest rooms cannot be fixed remotely. They have no choice but to enter to perform the repair, exposing themselves even more directly to potential COVID-positive guests.
The most critical at one case, and we have a L-safe box in the room, but this guest thought that is a microwave oven. So he went to keep everything inside and he pressed the button and he's screaming to me why the box cannot be hot. So I have to go to the room and explain to him.
You are supposed to be like a magician, you know, you need to solve things and all that. I think for us, especially the concierge, we have built lots of relationship with the guests through face-to-face conversation. We call it the human touch. So nowadays, we can't do that. I really miss that.
I've worked in the industry for a long time. So, you know, at heart, you would like to serve, you would like to make experiences for guests. As much as we want to provide luxury for all our guests, even during this SHN time, there is a lesser opportunity for that.
Oh, dinner shirts! I guess I have to get it now.
Food is one of the few remaining opportunities for that.
Whoa, fish, my favorite! Whoa, I also like fish.
Today we have mee siam with fish cake.
I find this breakfast very nice.
Quarantine guests are given 3 meals a day. While they can specify preferences, they cannot choose their food. Some hotels outsource this to external caterers, but the Conrad prepares all their guests' food themselves. Compared to pre-pandemic times, that's 5 times the amount of food channeled through room service. And overseeing the immense task is Chef Boone, who never before imagined he would be cooking in such volumes.
I was trained in the French restaurant. I will work with quite some of the Michelin chefs before. When I joined Conrad, I received a task for doing SHN for all the returner Singaporean. Morning, 4 a.m., we start to prepare the breakfast, portioning the food, packaging all the food and deliver to the room. Lunchtime and the dinner is very busy for us.
It's very hectic and also overwhelming. So we have to stand by trolleys by trolleys. Then we will go level by level to deliver the food.
Some people they request Indian cuisine, halal cuisine, Western meal. Every day they have a different requirement. I try to make them happy. During the Singapore lockdown, I was back to Malaysia. June, I received a call from my company. They request me to come back to Singapore. I have that kind of the experience quarantining for 14 days. The 14 days is my hardest moment in my life. I separate with my family. I was using the same feeling to create the menu for those people return to Singapore, to let them have a feeling that we are concerned about them.
But even the finest hotel chefs find themselves hard-pressed to compete with other hearty delights in Singapore.
Yesterday, my sister bought some fried rice for us.
Tasty.
It's often what keeps locked-in guests sane during their quarantine.
Papa's here! Yay! I'm so excited!
But behind those packages of joy is the Amber team, working through meal times to ensure the food arrives at their guest's doorstep reasonably hot. In a complex web of logistics, the Amber team shuttles between the reception to over 25 different floors to hand-deliver the never-ending influx of orders to each room.
I didn't expect myself to work in the hospitality industry, to do a delivery job. It's not easy at all to go out and down or out and down.
And it isn't just about bringing things to the guests. It's also about taking things out of the rooms, like laundry, which comes with its own protocols and its own set of unsung heroes.
Point of time, we actually wanted to be safe for myself and my family. We actually don't want to continue.
Like over 90 hotels in Singapore, the Conrad Centennial has been roped in by the government to house incoming travellers serving their quarantine. This meant a huge change for the staff. Even something as simple as laundry is complicated business.
If they want to send laundry out, we need it to be in the soluble bag and we place it outside the door.
This laundry is sent out to an external laundromat. Yet another frontline player in the quarantine operations.
The procedures, the preparations have increased by threefold, yeah. Protective gear is a must. Mask must be on, goggles must be on, and the PE suit must be on. Before the pre-COVID days, this water-soluble bag is tasked for infectious disease department in the hospital. The water-soluble bag will start to dissolve in the water at 65 degrees. The main reason for it is so that we have no direct contact to the garments. We wash above temperature of 65 degrees so that it eliminates all the bacteria or the viruses.
We're not sure whether the guest is having the positive COVID or not. So we actually have our own protocol to do the safety measure as well. Point of time, we actually wanted to be safe for myself and my family. We actually don't want to continue.
The first time we received a positive case, we were like shocked. My staff, we all were afraid. After the guests do for the test and they are positive, the hotels will notify us. What happens is they will load it into a red plastic bag and put into a separate trolley and inform us that this is a positive case. What we do is we will push it under the open area, leave it in open air for 6 hours under the sun. We throw it into the normal washer extractor. We wash it at 70 degrees. so that it eliminate all the viruses. During last year, right, we have it like every day. We are getting maybe in a week, right, we have around 5.
Between 40 to 80% of our cases, our imported cases, are detected on their on-arrival test.
That still leaves a large number of imported cases which take longer to incubate. When new cases emerge in the middle of quarantine, the hotel's security team kicks into gear.
We work very closely hand in hand to activate the ambulance and also don our PPE and escort them. We have dedicated lift to run this operation. So we called it the red zone lift to escort the paramedics to bring down the particular said gas.
MOH will send an ambulance to convey the gas to a designated facility or let it be a hospital.
We have handled many guests who are tested positive.
The vacated room of the COVID-positive guest is now a danger zone. Before anyone can enter safely again, the hotel must treat it almost like a crime scene and enlist external cleaning specialists to thoroughly disinfect every surface of the room before their own amber staff goes in again to double it disinfected, wiping it clean of any trace of the virus.
So we've introduced the Day 7 test in the middle of the SHN so that we can identify cases early. Because the earlier we identify cases, we can do the contact tracing, we can also provide better medical care for the individual.
I really love the hotel, but the part I don't like.
You don't like swab tests?
No.
It was rather painful. They really went far in this time.
Across all quarantine facilities, the guests are tested at least once every 7 days. That's because incubation periods differ from case to case.
There's also the risk that when we run tests, there are false results obtained as well. The false negatives are what we worry the most, because a false negative means someone is truly infected and contagious, but the test kit unfortunately say that this person is actually healthy. Now, if we release such a person into the community, remember, he is actually contagious, so he may go on to infect others.
Nevertheless, leaks do occur from time to time.
On Wednesday, May 5th, 2021, a cleaner was ending her workday at the Park Avenue Rochester Hotel. She felt a runny nose and tickle in her throat. The very next day, a fever came. The doctor gave her a COVID-19 test immediately. A day later, the result came back positive.
We can work as hard as we want, but when there's just the constant pressure with a very unforgiving virus, then it's really not surprising that every now and then there's a breach. And this is nobody's fault. This happens.
The Ministry of Health's contact tracing team sprang into action to stem the spread, hoping it wasn't too late. But it was.
By the time we identified her as a positive case, she likely infected some other people who had visited GEM Westgate.
But the facts of the case remained puzzling. This cleaner did not even work in the hotel's amber guest zones, and yet she got infected at the hotel. How did it happen? Case 62933. She's a fully vaccinated 53-year-old hotel cleaner that got infected with COVID-19. The contact tracing team raced to find the source of her infection.
There was actually great genetic similarity between her and one of the cases that had stayed at the facility.
But how remained the question, because there were no obvious routes of transmission. The cleaner did not work in the hotel's amber zones. She was not supposed to have direct contact with these high-risk guests.
The virus can actually remain on the surface for up to a couple of days. And when another individual comes and touches that surface, and unfortunately touches then the nose or the mouth, the virus can transmit in that manner.
This means that all staff working in hotels with quarantined guests, not just those in the amber zones, are vulnerable.
All of us are required to actually take a shower at work first before we actually head home. So when I reach home, the first thing I'll do is actually just sanitize myself first. I will actually go directly to the bathroom and then I'll just take a shower.
Actually, I did not tell my parents or anyone in my family that I'm working in this job. I also worry that what if they know that I'm working in this, how they gonna feel, how they gonna react. I know that it's bad not to tell them the truth, but for me, I cannot open my mouth. Just can't open my mouth. Yeah. I think my mom will be shocked. How come this boy do hotel job, then suddenly converted to hospital job?
There's one point of time I feel a bit discomfort in my throat, and then I had running nose, body aches and all that. And beside me is my wife. On my right side is my kids. So what should I do now? Should I go straight to the doctor or should I wait till morning? Luckily, it was just a normal flu.
I don't really meet up with my friends and also my family because I'm just afraid what if there's something with me or anything. I don't want to actually spread.
The most worrying thing that we have is going back and infecting others, especially the people that you love around you. So that makes us very worried. Sorry, I still don't know why.
Some of these impacts of both fear, anxiety, as well as, even feeling like I can't cope with it. This is an entirely new job description that I didn't exactly sign up for.
While the hotel staff struggle with the anxiety of interacting with the outside world, their guests are going through anxieties of their own, locked up inside.
The third day, I could feel everything slowing down. On day 5, my appetite drastically went down. I felt like there was no point doing anything. There was this particular day when I had no meeting, nothing scheduled, and I was just completely free. I started thinking I have this many more days to go, right? And I started to have a certain kind of breathlessness, and I began to feel a little bit anxious.
It can be very traumatic. Being stuck in a hotel room the whole time is not a pleasant experience, despite it being a comfortable kind of a setting. We should be very, very cognizant that people may have pre-existing mental health conditions which could be triggered more by this situation where they are alone, where they are constantly thinking about infection.
When I had moments of anxiety or that feeling of, where I'm feeling trapped, right? What I do is just validating those feelings make me feel so much better. Some days are just going to be absolutely worse where you are just unable to wake up.
Sometimes just the frustration of being isolated does get to you, and you may act out in ways that you would not normally do.
As of June 2021, the SHN Task Force had investigated 259 cases of SHN breaches. 30 persons have been charged in court. An individual who is convicted under the infectious diseases COVID-19 stay order regulations may be liable of a fine not exceeding $10,000 or an imprisonment term not exceeding 6 months, or both.
Every shift there's a dedicated patrolling team to actually walk along the corridor. And all the exit staircase has been sealed with the security seals and also armed with panic alarm systems.
Hotel security monitors the CCTVs 24 hours a day to make sure that the quarantined guests do not escape from their rooms.
Checkpoint Combined Command Center, there's a security breach at 27th floor. There's a guest loitering around the corridor. Could someone please proceed up to check?
The hotel will report the incident to ICA. My team will respond to the facility to interview the staff, view any CCTV footages, and collect any relevant information such as the attire the person is in. Concurrently, we will try to contact the person using the contact details that we have. We may also activate our ground forces to keep a lookout of this person. It was a big burden on the team to monitor this high volume of travelers that are being put on SHN. One of the major challenges is the limited manpower resources that we have.
These are just a tiny fraction of the cases Ho Kun's team had to track down. As of 30th June 2021, there have been 259 breaches of SHN. Sometimes, a listening ear can prevent things from going out of hand.
Last year I lost my mom. Same time, one guest is a mother passed away also. He from Bangladesh, I also from Bangladesh. So my language and his language is same language. I tell them, don't cry. Man is mortal. One day I also die, you also die. I know what you're feeling. My mother passed away, but don't be cry because you need to take care of all the family.
On 23rd June 2021, the Singapore government dropped another bombshell. But this time, of joy.
From local data and also international data, there was no evidence that the Delta variant had any longer incubation period than the previous variants. While there were some cases that tested positive on their day 21 test, further investigations show that these were actually very old recovered cases that were still shedding the virus intermittently. There was no risk of transmission from these individuals.
So from 23rd of June, the quarantine has come back to 14 days from 21, which is very good news. But again, this puts constraint on the team because on that day itself, there was a lot of phone calls from guests asking, can they leave the hotel tomorrow?
Oh, it feels so nice. It feels so nice that we're finally out on the hotel room.
We were so happy. My kids were jumping for joy when they knew that they could get out earlier, which means that they could meet their cousins and everyone much earlier. But there were some mixed feelings there, and I'm still trying to process it. You kind of feel a bit lost. And you felt like, oh, okay, what do I then do the remaining 7 days? Because we have planned to be in the hotel for 21 days.
So we are here. That feels so good. Oh, look at that. Yes. What a nice view. We're outside. Yeah. I can feel the fresh air. I know.
It's very bizarre. I'm feeling quite reluctant to leave actually. Actually, the past 15 days have been quite amazing for me in the sense that I had so much me time. I feel very protected from the rest of the world. In fact, I feel very safe in this small space. And the past 15 days have given me a safe space to be creative. And it was very therapeutic, expressing my angst through music.
I think one of the most enduring things that happened was how my daughter and my son, they actually bonded so well together. They had a 9-year gap between them. In our daily lives, there were not much opportunity for them to really bond.
Okay, so here we are. We're outside the hotel, and we are now really down and out. Okay, so bye-bye.
A lot of them are excited because they're leaving finally.
But the Amber team's monitoring job isn't over yet. They still need to make sure that these guests leave the hotel's doors safely without being exposed to guests still in quarantine.
They would be escorted from their rooms all the way down to the lobby. From the lobby, they're free to go. Hi, good morning.
To be honest with you, I really miss interacting with the green zone because that's like my family. We've been together for so long.
Because we are now not enough staff, so we are helping each other doing this thing. As a team, we are doing.
I would love to look back and to say that, I was there. I was there to help out. I was there, part of the team. I can inspire the younger generation. Don't be scared if the next pandemic happen, step forward.
One thing I would like everyone to know, if anything happens to us, maybe we form a cluster in our hotel, please don't point the finger to us at us. Instead, we need your comfort and we need your support.
Before I go, I would like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude and utmost appreciation for the hotel staff.
All our hard work, at the end of the day, is all worth it when they actually write us notes.
I never regret what I did. I'm actually proud of what I did.
In the next episode,
Changi is a link to the world for us. So keeping our borders closed, we are slowly strangling ourselves.
the unseen battle to keep Singapore's gateways open to the world.
During COVID, many ports and airports were closed to seafarers. This became a trade problem. It was also a humanitarian crisis.
And the lessons from the missteps along the way.
We could have easily come in contact with other passengers from higher risk countries.